I think the best way to explain this latest JJK episode is it's like imagine being tied to the train tracks, right? And you're told, okay, the train's gonna run you over. Like, it's very obvious this is what's gonna happen. Your arms, your legs are tied to that track, and you're not going to get help. There's no one coming to stop it. But the train's not coming for like 20 minutes, right? So initially, you kind of have all these fears, you got this anxiety going. But at a certain point, you're just kind of waiting for the train to run your ass over. And that's exactly what this episode was. Because here's the thing, my social media, like with what I use it for anymore, is just animal videos. Like, that's legitimately most of what I see anymore is just animal videos. And I did that for a reason, because a mixture of not wanting spoilers and also just the internet is insufferable and I want cute videos to make me happy. So I really don't have a lot of spoilers for shows that I'm following. There's like an Oshinoko spoiler that I know about, but besides that, like a lot of shit like I just don't know. But a blind man can see what they're building into, because if you got a backstory, it's different if you drop a backstory like near the end of an episode, then it's a little more up in the air if something's gonna happen. But you can't tell me after smacking her in the face halfway through the episode and then you kick into a backstory that she ain't gonna die or she ain't gonna get obliterated. So you knew it was coming. You didn't need no manga reader telling you that. If you've seen at least a couple of anime, you see this bitch coming. But it doesn't change the fact that it feels like being tied to the goddamn train tracks. You have the anxiety the whole way through, and then at a certain point you're just like, run me over. And then when it does, I'm basically like Itadori, man. I had to rewind that. Like, his response calling out her name is like literally one of my favorite vocal performances of his actor. Full live reaction over on my Patreon. If you would like to see me just be like, you know what, just get it over with. It's over there if you're interested. Now, oh boy, this is a good episode. This is a very good episode. Now, I am honestly bamboozled by how good the production's holding up. I've said it, and I'm gonna keep on saying it. Nothing but respect for the individuals making this show, because honestly, there's little things I might be able to nitpick in this episode, but this was a very consistent episode, and it helps because it's not primarily driven by action. There is some great action at the start, but you know, half the episode is backstory and more standing around talking. But still, for what I thought was going to happen with this production, I thought we were going to start getting into the Zom 100 situation where episodes were delayed a day and then it became delayed a couple of days and then they dropped the final few episodes New Year's Day or some bullshit. But no, like, they're pulling through, and fuck the production committee, but damn if the team itself isn't giving it their all, because this is still very consistent. So I think the best way I can represent the backstory is kind of like a two-parter. If it was just the backstory and that's all that happened this episode, I probably wouldn't feel overly invested in it. Not because like of anything particular in it that was bad. It's fine. Like, it's nice to get to know more about these three and like, you know, Nobara and just everything and who she is. But I think what makes it so good, for whether you just initially click with that backstory or you're kind of indifferent to it like myself, knowing what they're trying to build into and showing that side of her to then build into that head splatter makes it so effective. And I think by starting the episode off with such great choreography, I mean, I mentioned it, I'm not sure if it was last video or if it was the video before, but I mentioned how the action recently is reminding me a lot of Monty Ohm, who did some very great work. And I think just the hand-to-hand combat, I think the interesting way, like, they'll sometimes zoom in on Itadori's like sneakers and how we see his foot movements. I think a lot of times action anime forget that it all is kind of built around the foot movements, like how they're positioning themselves. And man, the impact, like when he like puts Mahito up against like that pillar and just beats the living shit out of him, and then he blows up into like some Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. And I'm just like, what are we watching? But this shit is just clean. It's absolutely clean. I really had no idea what was going to happen to Nobara, and maybe it's a mixture of me not remembering what Mahito is capable of and also just not really sure what he did. But the idea of just like that scene where it looks like they're gonna like morph together, you know, heal themselves, that makes sense. Nobara's chasing one, Itadori, Yuji's chasing the other, and then they just pass, and I'm like, I was like, what's the point of passing? Like, yeah, I mean, they're both fighting what seems to be about an equal version of themselves. And just the idea that he's like, well, if I couldn't take him out, I wonder what would happen if I do it to her. And I love how it's this immediate fear. You're like, okay. To be honest, I was expecting worse of a seemingly death. I mean, I was really actually hoping they would like do a camera zoom in and I could see the hole in her face, because like I just for my own like guarantee, but I think it's pretty guaranteed what happened there. But the idea that I was expecting fireworks, man. But I think what makes it more impactful is the fact that it was actually more real. It's an impressive impact of an explosion, But it's not to the point that it becomes edgy. It's just like, imagine looking at your friend who says, tell everyone I had a great life, I was happy with life, and then just part of her face just, and you're left saying, you know what, I'm glad I'm not fighting alone. I just felt like I destroyed the whole goddamn world because I have a monster living inside me. And then what ends up happening? The person who's like reigniting that spark that you're not alone gets killed in front of you. Like, what in the actual fuck? Like, like, what the hell, man? Like, this is a really good episode, but my title is exactly, I think, the perfect representation. I knew it was coming, not because I read the manga, not because I got spoiled. It's because it's obvious what they were going to do. Had they not shown Mahito hit her, then I think I might have been a little more 50-50 on it, because at that point I'm like, well, backstories aren't always guaranteed death, but when you see him touch her and then just the backstory plays for half the goddamn episode, I'm waiting for the damn train. And unfortunately, that train, it had to make a pit stop. The conductor went on goddamn lunch break as I'm sitting here like, can you just kill me and get it over with? And then when it happened, I'm like, why did I even beg for this? It's just, wow, that's spicy. And I mean, I think I said it last week. I think I said the only one I kind of feel like is guaranteed safe outside of our main character, just for the fact that Sukuna kind of needs him right now, is Megumi. And the only reason I feel safe with him is because Sukuna wants him to be alive. Because had he not wanted him alive, he would have already been dead. Just imagining the fact that had the big villain of this show not wanted to keep him alive, Yuji would be standing with two of his closest friends and allies dead, on top of all the other allies that are already dying before his eyes. How this boy hasn't mentally snapped yet, props to him, I guess, but his voice acting, man, like the animation, the fighting, it's just, the music, like there's some OSTs that are playing that I'm like, have we heard these before? And if so, how did I forget about them? Because these are some of the best tracks I've heard this anime season. It's just, I'm utterly impressed. I don't know what else to say. This was a great episode that broke me emotionally, and I knew it was going to, but it doesn't change the fact that it still hurts like a biatch even once it actually happens, and I just don't know how characters pull through on this show anymore. Everyone gonna die. That's basically my opinion at this point. Thoughts yourself down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you get notified when I upload more JJK to the channel. Like I mentioned, we have that full live reaction. And hey, while you're over on my Patreon, you also get a video shout out. Alright, so today we have Tran Nugan, Edrei Zahari, Tony X, Daniel Darby, Spectra, Luke, Tech Knight, Migs021, Jaxo23, James Wright, Flippy Napkins, Fox Girl, and Gareth Green. I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and don't get your head splattered.